I mean, a lot has been said, and it's very difficult to add now new aspects to it. Public history in the 21st century is, of course, it's a very tricky thing, because the importance of history, in particular public history, is defined by the past, and it's the past of the 20th century, and we're talking about the beginning of the 21st century, and it's not that much different from the 20th century. So what is going to come, we don't really know. So it might change radically, because the past actually defines the relevance of history. But perhaps I would like to take it a bit out of the German context. I think it is always, and that isn't a German specific, it is the duty of historians to give a critical narrative of the past, which to a certain extent undermines general assumptions and reconstructions of the past, which are easy, which are sort of either in private or in public currency, but which are obviously not quite accurate, or don't basically don't meet the facts. And I think, sort of coming from an Enlightenment tradition, I think it should be the role of the historian actually to give critical accounts, like Mary said. And it is quite right, I think, indeed. We have to be very careful not to confine ourselves to contemporary history or 20th century history. And even if we take German history as an example, look at the importance, for example, prehistory played for Nazi ideology. It took critical prehistory in the 1950s, 1960s. It wasn't terribly difficult, but to diffuse sort of Nazi ideology about race and all the rest of it. So different, or for example, Middle Ages for the 19th century, were the core discipline to a certain extent for empire building and all the rest of it. So it needs medievalists to diffuse some of the myths, and relevance might change. So it might be other periods or other topics which come up. And that, of course, is to a certain extent, I think, not necessarily a German-specific problem, and we have similar debates in, I mean, not to the same extent, but from the sort of theoretical background in Britain about the role of the empire and this and that, where sort of public history and academic history interact in a very interesting way. Historians are gatekeepers of history, of the memory of a society, and I think I would like one aspect to the debate. Gatekeepers goes in both ways. So they are responsible for what comes out of the archive and how the past is presented. But I think if I take the question of the role in the 21st century seriously, we also have to think about the role of the historian, be it public or academic, to make sure the heritage is preserved and open, as May said, for future interpretation. And one of the interesting or real shifts as far as our historical profession is concerned for the 21st century is the complete change of nature of sources we are going to have. And we haven't even started tackling this problem. So we have to deal with remnants of the internet and all this culture. I mean, I'm taking it now out of the narrow German problem, but I think this is something we have to keep in mind and we have to be aware of. And I think that is also a public role of the historian, to make the public aware of the fact that these things have to be preserved in order for historians to be able to give a good account in the future. As far as the academic and the public history is concerned, I think it is, Mary hinted at this, the German Habilitation or doctorate, even worse, 800 pages and mostly footnotes. And public history, of course, in Germany, as everywhere else, is mostly media-driven. It's driven by completely different genres. So, and I think that is something we really have to take seriously, that public history is presented mostly as in the genre of film, and to a certain extent journal articles, shorter journal articles, but film is an very, very important aspect. I mean, just think at the impact of the television series on the Holocaust in Germany in the 60s. That really started again the research. But we have to engage with that sort of media. I think the film is a legitimate media with its own construction rules coming out of the media, and we have to make sure we present history in a way and think about history and deal with the people who present history through that channels in order to make sure what gets conveyed is actually is correct. So we need to get out of our genres and engage in a debate and not just say this is sort of film against Guido Knopp again, or whoever presents German history on television, and try and make it better.